So today is the 21st of January. Yesterday was a great day in a lot of ways. Uh, Found out that the girlfriend does not have COVID. Yay! Her test came in negative. She made it without getting the freaking pandemic. That's a really huge thing, good thing. That means we can be together soon. Go pick her up, all that stuff. Um, Biden got inaugurated and is a pretty good inauguration. It makes me so happy. Throughout history, generations from now, if they look at who sang the national anthem at his inauguration, it's on record. It was someone named Lady Gaga. It's so good. Lady Gaga sang it. I'm sorry. I don't dislike Lady Gaga or technically like she's sort of middle ground for me for singers or whatever, but it's just so funny that that's the name. It also was so funny when Jennifer Lopez was singing and she started going into Spanish. I could hear so many people I'm related to. I could hear in their brain the cringe. That was also a good feeling them just wince at her going into Spanish. I don't understand a lot of the people I'm related to and their fixation on Trump as a religious figure and stuff. I mean, we grew up with such religious rigidity, and he's so immoral, and he doesn't do anything godly or upright. And then you've got Biden with actual like Bible verses and hymnals and stuff in his speeches, and they're like, "Oh no, he's the devil. He's a demon." And it's like, I mean, he's Catholic, but he's more Christian than Trump is by a lot, by massive standards. I mean, I don't even understand how people can lie to themselves so much about Trump being more Christian than Biden is. Um, anyway, the big thing is, it's just, man, I listened to both their speeches. Trump's was so full of crap. He is taking credit for that the world views us in a good way. The world views us in a good way because he's leaving office. He was like taking credit for the stock market being in a good place. The stock market's in a good place because he's leaving office. Like, he showed a graph. I don't know why he did this. He showed a graph of his presidency and all of the massive like stock market drops during his presidency. And he's like, "See, look how great it is. It goes up and up." Yeah, it starts going up and up once Biden was elected and people had hope. And then the stock market went up and up. You're right. Like, he's like, "Oh, anything good that Biden does will be because of a foundation that I've laid." And I'm like, and yet he's literally passing executive orders specifically to undo terrible things that you did. Like, within hours of him being elected, he got us back into the Paris Climate Accord, which just made me so happy. Like, I hadn't even gone to bed yet, and we're back in, and I'm just like, yes. Like, got rid of the travel bans for stupidest reasons to ban someone from traveling ever. It freaking has a big giant stack of executive orders he's trying to take care of and get things done, and it's just like, thank goodness, someone who actually is taking the pandemic seriously. 10 of the executive orders he just passed were for the pandemic in specific. You know, having a president who believes in science. And oh my gosh, the press secretary went out to speak to the reporters, and one of the first things was, "Hey, sorry about the last 4 years. The next 4 years, we will not be belligerent toward reporters. We will try to be transparent with reporters and tell the truth, but we're not going to be mean to you or make threats." And you notice that she came out and spoke Not one mention of crowd sizes, not one threat against anyone, not one big giant tirade on how great the president is and how perfect. Like, just it's a bunch of like civil people who have been elected at this point. It's civility. Um, it's very nice to see some intellectualism, some propriety, some speaking of the nation's ideals and the Constitution's ideals instead of going on and on about one man. One man is not the country. It was really, really satisfying to see all of the QAnon supporters and stuff just freaking out because they thought for sure that God would never allow Biden to be elected, let alone Biden to be actually president. And Biden's president. So now they're having to second guess their beliefs, a lot of them. And there's still hundreds of thousands of them that are still down that rabbit hole. And it's sad. But there's also hundreds of thousands who are sobbing and weeping, realizing the relationships and the friendships and the family members that they've thrown away for their conspiracies. And it is so good to watch people step away from extremism and to have these like realizations, you know, like they push their families to the point of like divorce. They push their families to the point of being, you know, cut off completely by their children or their parents. Like they put themselves in that situation by being so completely committed to a cause that was not worth that commitment. And hopefully they can start to rebuild. But they're still prosecuting people for the Capitol insurrection. And we finally have a president who will say the word insurrection. We finally have a president who will say the words white nationalist, white supremacist, extremists. It's so fucking nice to have a president who will call things what they are instead of tiptoeing around it, and who actually believes in science. Like, it's not even been 24 hours. And it's just like, so happy about that. I am feeling very hopeful about life and the future and stuff. And it's a little frustrating because not everyone is like me. I used to be so depressed, and I am watching my habits change and my reactions to things change and what I will put up with change. Like how badly I'll accept being treated or accept treating myself. Like I don't treat myself so bad. Um like not being depressed, I am getting less daunted by just accepting when I see my habits changing. Like I wouldn't say I'm comfortable with not being depressed yet, but I'm definitely taking steps in that direction. And I'm taking steps toward the me that I've always wanted, which is very exciting, feels very good. I am seeing the silver lining on things. I'm not getting as derailed when something goes wrong. I'm a lot more focused. I am not forcing myself to do tedious daily tasks and games that I don't want to. I don't feel guilty about it. Like a lot of the guilt's gone away. I I feel like I'm starting to come to terms with what I have felt shame about my whole life and why I shouldn't. And transition wise, it's it's not even just that I'm not depressed. It's not just that I'm happy with the transition and how it's going. Except for the bottom growth. The bottom growth thing, I don't know what to do about. But the rest of I'm very happy about, and feel like I'm getting closer to myself. Like I feel like I'm getting more to where I need to be and what I've been trying to pursue my entire life. Like I feel very, very comfortable with my transition. Um, but it's not just that. It's like I'm getting closer to who I wanted to be, like mentally, like, which is a very awesome thing, because I didn't know if I could ever get to that, because there always seemed to be some invisible barrier, and I don't feel that barrier. Like I don't feel that same way. I don't feel hopeless, and I've spent the majority of my life feeling completely hopeless. Um, and when I would get hopeful, it would last very temporarily, and then I'd go back to hopelessness again. Like, life for me was a never ending funeral where I constantly grieved, and I'm not in grief, and I'm not hopeless, and it's not a funeral, and I'm fine with that. And it's a little hard when other people in my life still struggle with depression, because on the one hand, I understand, and I think a reaction to things is valid. You can't always control how you react. Reactions can be instinctual, they're immediate, they're sometimes even triggers. Like, a reaction is valid, but then after a certain point, it's not a reaction anymore, it's a procreation. You're just perpetuating the same feeling over and over again. You're holding on to it, you're wallowing in it, whatever it is. And that is harder for me to be as patient about. Like, I'm very patient with the reactions, or at least I feel like I am. I try to be. I try very hard to be. But then when one thing that happened in the morning derails someone's day all the way to the end of the day, and everything that you do and anything that you do doesn't help or alleviate or anything, it gets frustrating. It gets hard to stay patient with that. And it's not that I don't understand, because I do understand. It's that after a certain point, you have a choice in the matter. And it might not be a choice in how you feel, but you do have a choice in how you are behaving. I might feel that way because I had high functioning depression, where I did what was required no matter how I felt. I don't know, but I don't know how far is me being reasonable and how far is me not being sensitive enough. I don't know. But I know when things are annoying, I don't want to do them. And I used to just dissociate through it and force myself to do it and grin my teeth, and it didn't matter how miserable I felt. And now I just don't want to feel miserable about it. Like, it's okay to be upset temporarily. It's okay to be sad about something or to miss someone. But then you don't stop living just because that happened. And I'm finding that hard to adjust to. Being not depressed versus being still with someone who is depressed. Um, that's a hard adjustment for me. But transition wise, I'm still very glad about it. I'm learning and I'm growing, but I'm also just changing. The day before yesterday, I noticed that there was a different tremble in my voice. Like in my throat, the vibration feels slightly different. And every once in a while, I was coughing because there'd be like this tremor that goes up and down it, like tickles it and stuff. And it feels weird. And I mentioned it to the girlfriend and asked, does my voice sound deeper or anything? Because I feel this in my throat. And she was like, now that you mention it, maybe a little. Um, so this would be the third day, and I don't know if my voice is getting deeper or not. It seems a little early for voice change to me. Um, but also, I mean, my transition has not been typical. And I mean, again, I always had a little bit deeper voice anyway than other like girls around me or whatever. So I don't know um if it's just that I'm a boy and it's easier for my voice to change. Like I haven't had any of the like little cracks in your voice or breaks or anything. I I don't know. It's a little weird and um I don't know if it's audible or not. I'm gonna listen back on this and see if I can hear it. I didn't want to get too excited or too like, oh yeah, I think my voice is starting to change, until it lasted a little bit. Like the last time my voice went way deeper, it was when I started taking the men's multivitamin, and then I haven't really done anything special about this. Like it wasn't even that I took my tea yesterday or whatever. Like my testosterone I take on Fridays. Um Actually, I'll be taking my testosterone again tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know. I've still been craving protein. I have zits, so many zits, just my upper arms and my upper back and my chest and just all in along my hairline, and I have a bunch of zits right in here inside my edges of my nose. Like I'm getting zits. Um, it is what it is with that. Um, I honestly am pretty pleased. They're not. When I was a teenager, they were these big red welts on your face. Like they almost looked like lesions. They were so massive and red and just everywhere. And they're not like that. So that's a relief. Um Also, I haven't noticed any hair loss. Like I cut my hair yesterday and I didn't notice any hair loss at all. So that was something. I have definitely been having more, like my hair's growing so patchy along all of this, but they are definitely growing in more and they're growing in stiffer. And along here too, they're just stiffer when they're going in. Now these are all still a little bit soft or whatever, but they are longer and some of them are getting harder. Like right here, this one right here, this one's real hard. It's almost as hard as the ones that grow over here. So um I do feel like that's something that's happening. Um which again, I feel like it's way too early for me to be getting extra facial hair, but then I've always grown facial hair. I've grown facial hair since I was a kid. So I don't I don't know. My transition's so weird because I was born weird, physically or whatever. Um, I still feel like maybe I've lost some weight off my hips, but I don't feel like I've lost weight anywhere else. So that's weird. Um, but when I exercise, it still feels really good and almost primal. I've been exercising in almost a primal way where it's like, I don't know. Have you ever seen tribal dancing like in South America or Pacific Islands? Tribal dancing and stuff. It's almost like that where I'm exercising and I'm like doing boxing or something and it turns into I don't even know how to describe it. It's just very masculine, very masculine. Um, Sometimes it just almost like I'm just I don't even know. Um, but yeah, the protein's been nice, and I've been eating way less sugar. Like I haven't. I used to have the biggest sweet tooth, like huge sweet tooth, and I just haven't really been into sweets at all. I've been very into um, fruit for my sugar. Like I just want fruit instead of like I don't want candy. Like the girlfriend keeps mentioning ice cream, and I'm like, I haven't had ice cream in like a month. I don't want ice cream. It's I was realizing that I haven't eaten ice cream in like a month. Like that's pretty impressive for me. Like I was never the person who like drinking like soda pop and was super big into like candies and stuff. I just definitely did indulge in like ice cream or scones or you know mousse or cakes or cupcakes maybe or something. Like I liked baked goods, or else ice cream. And I haven't had any of that. None. Nothing. So like the sugariest things I've been eating are probably oatmeal and cereal, and those are not the sugariest ones. Like the oatmeal, the cereal, for instance, that I eat, the cereal I eat has 6 grams of protein in it, and it has like 7 grams of sugar. Like it's decently low on sugar compared to most cereal. Most cereal is like in the 12 to 24 grams of sugar range. I'm just not interested. Um, I have been very much wanting protein though. And I found these protein Rice Krispie treats that I'm liking. They actually have almost the texture of Rice Krispie treat. And they don't taste quite like a Rice Krispie treat, but it's close enough that it's fine. They don't taste super proteiny, which is nice. Um, and then I've still been drinking muscle milk, and I feel pretty good about that. I am still not sleeping very well. I'm just struggling with the sleep thing. But that I think that's literally just a consequence of not being depressed. I don't think that's a consequence of transitioning. Um, and I will gladly be not depressed. Um, it is definitely worth it. Um, I don't know. I just haven't been misgendered as much. Even though obviously I've not had any surgery yet and stuff like that. I still feel like I'm shaped not right and stuff like that, but I feel like I'm making steps, I'm making progress, and for me that's very satisfying. Like it feels very good. I don't need to be all the way there as long as I'm getting there. And I have so much hope about this year, about possibly moving, possibly getting divorced, possibly being able to get a job, even if a part-time job, being able to be in charge of my finances instead of having all these limitations on my finances. Um, it feels really good to have hope about my transition, that hopefully the pandemic will start to be treated like a real thing now, and we can address it, and maybe I can get my name changed and get my gender marker changed, and who knows, maybe even get a surgery or something. I mean, there's just possibility. There's so much possibility for this year, and that makes me real happy. And I understand. I'm not oblivious to the fact that I'm still very much an androgynous blob. I'm still very much like I was born half boy, half girl. Like visibly, even besides internal stuff. And it's like, I'm not unaware that that's still a thing. It's just, I feel like I am making progress toward not being half and half anymore and being fully myself. And being fully myself just is so comfortable. I'm I'm so comfortable with making changes that the discomfort is so minute in comparison. That there's progress happening is so just good. It feels good. There's silver linings to everything now, and things don't have to be this hard like they've been my whole life. Like a couple of years from now, life could be just dandy. Like for real. And I like that feeling. I like that hope. And I feel like the world is coming into some of the same sensation that I'm feeling. Like I feel like there's millions of people, even just in this country, let alone in the world, rejoicing for us, rejoicing about the changes in our country. And I realize there are people who are not rejoicing, but there are so many people who are just so relieved and rejoicing and happy. And I feel like they're they're feeling some of what I'm feeling as I transition. Like the transition into a new way in America is similar to the transition of me living a new way myself. And right now, things aren't all repaired. There's so much mess to clean up in the country. And that's true of my transition too. There things aren't perfect. There's still so much work to do, but it just feels so freaking good to be doing it and to be making progress and to be taking those steps and to know that it's possible that we could get there if we keep taking these steps. And I feel like anyone who understands that feeling or feels that feeling maybe has some clue about how I'm feeling about my transition and just how good that is. And hopefully they can understand just how personal that is and be a little more understanding of the trans people in their life. And it's such a warm, good thing. I actually got told by my therapist today that when I see her might not be weekly anymore because she might have to free up time for people who are more in crisis than me. And it's like, that feels really good because a year ago, I was in fucking crisis and I'm not in crisis. Like, I'm going through one of the hardest things that a person can go through, and it feels fucking amazing. It feels incredible. Like, and maybe because I've gone through so many other things in my life that just comparably this doesn't feel as hard, but I don't think it's that. I think it's just me. Like, being yourself and getting closer to yourself and to being yourself and getting closer to living the life that you want to live for yourself and being happy to just be you is just important. I read a self-help thing once, and it was like, stop trying to be the best you. Stop trying to, invest so much stuff into your insides and start being happy to be you, doing things that you would like to do, living in a way that you would like to live. Because being the best you can only get you so far, but living the way you want to live will get you where you want to go. And like there's so much self-help stuff out there about bettering yourself and being, more in tune with your insides and the insides of yourself, and knowing what you want's important, and getting to the point where you can tell something that you want is important. But once you know what you want, it just seems to me that it's less about continually pouring more and more into yourself internally and trying to surround yourself by only positive things so that internally you get positive, and instead living a way that suits you more. And the inside will start to follow when you lead it with the outside. And so many people are trapped in ways where they can't do that. And I feel like that's part of why they're so depressed, that external factors influence it. Having hope matters. As someone who lived almost my entire life without it, having hope matters. It makes such a freaking difference. And I do have hope. And tomorrow, I will be taking my testosterone again. And I first took it on the 18th of December. So technically a month would have been at 18th, but I did it my 1 month on T by how long I had been taking it for 4 weeks, because 18th to 25th, the 1st to 8th, that's 4 weeks on testosterone. But in reality, I'm only 3 days over a month on T if you go by a month, 18th to the 18th. It's really weird because basically tomorrow I'll be 6 weeks on testosterone, but I'm only 1 month on T. It's so weird. I don't know. I don't know if I like counting it from the 18th to the 18th like that. Even though that's technically the month thing. I just either way feel like I've been having a lot of changes for a very short amount of time. But then I've always had high testosterone. And I don't know how my body is behaving or not behaving. I don't feel like any of the testosterone's turning into estrogen, which is a good thing, because, that's always a concern. Are you on too much testosterone and it's going to turn it back into estrogen? I definitely don't think that's happening. It's just like my body is just like so relieved and just feeding. It's like not just feeding my soul, but like feeding me physically. And having your hormones less out of whack is just such a really good thing. I don't know. Anyway, tomorrow I'll be 6 weeks on testosterone. And in 6 weeks, my voice might have started changing, and my body definitely started changing. And I did not expect that. But it just feels right. And I can't complain. I mean, I really can't. Like the zits are just not even hardly a thing. Any annoyances, the oil, it's just not even worth mentioning compared to how happy I am. So, anyway, have fun.